Hi, it's Ginger from In Sheep's Clothing Yarn Shop, and I'm here today for Focus on Fiber. What we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be demonstrating to you, is going to be the Zick Zack scarf. It's a hot scarf that is being seen on social media and all the yarn shops right now. But what I would like to talk about first is what I did this weekend. If you're familiar with the Kent area in Connecticut, there was the first annual Kent Needle Arts Retreat, and it had 6 nationally known instructors that were there to teach. It was a 2-day event. It was Saturday through Sunday, and I'm a little bit tired because I was there as a vendor. Next year, maybe I'll be there and take a few classes while I was there. But some of the teachers that were there were some really, really well-known instructors. Nora Gahn was one of them, if I'm going to name drop a little bit. I remember her in Vogue Knitting magazine. Probably 25 years, probably even a little bit longer, that she's been designing. She's really, really well known. She's done a lot of work for Barocco yarns, designing. Her designs are very, very, very unusual and interesting shapes. She likes to use hexagons and very organic things. She has a number of books that are out. And another interesting story was one of the teachers that was there, her name was Laura Lee Beltman. And I got to see a number of her classes while I was a vendor there. I happened to see this really, really cool washcloth that was just very, very interesting design. And I had emailed her to ask her if I could have her permission to teach a class based on it, and she was selling her patterns online. So she had emailed me, and she was saying, "Oh, that would be great because the patterns the proceeds from that were going to the Special Olympics." So lost the train of thought here. So anyway, that she was very pleased that we were going to be doing that. Well, little did I know that as I was sending out emails, I happened to look at this card and realized that she was actually going to be teaching that this very, very weekend. So I got to meet her that weekend as well. So, and another person that was there was Mary J. Mucklestone. She does a lot of color work knitting. And it was really great to hear all the input from the students, how much they had learned and how much they were getting more confidence in their knitting as a result of the classes. And I should say that it was in Kent, and it was put on by a Kent store called Black Sheep Yarns. And Nancy and her husband were hosting and putting on this event, and we're all looking forward to them doing this again next year. And I can't wait to see what the lineup is going to be for the instructors. So anyway, Kent Needle Arts Retreat, looking forward to seeing it next year. Now, on to Zick Zack. Now, Zick Zack is actually Z-I-C-K, Z-A-C-K, and it was designed by, I believe she's German, and it means zigzag. And the look of it is rather kind of Italian looking, that kind of Missoni-esque look that you, if you remember from the House of Missoni, an Italian design company. The yarn that they use for this is a multicolored wool. So it has these long repeats of color, and it goes from color to color. And what's so interesting about this particular scarf is you don't just use one ball of one color. You use 2. So what happens is you start with, say, one color, and you do 2 rows, and then you do the second color, and you do 2 rows of that. And what's really great about this pattern is it's a 1-row repeat. So very simple. You don't have to, follow the pattern. Once you do a couple times, you have it memorized and you don't have to do too much. So what I'm going to do today is we'll do maybe a row or 2 in the multicolors just so you can see how it works up. But so that you can really, really get the color effect, I'm going to use 2 different colors so you can really see how the rows take shape. So what I did was, the pattern calls for 96 stitches. We're not going to do that many. I put on 24 here, and I just did a row just to get a row established on there. The pattern is very, very simple, and there'll be a link on my website so that you can get your own pattern for this. It is a free download. And the pattern goes as such. You're going to knit 5, four, 5, and then you're going to knit 2 together, and then you're going to knit 4. I lost track of what I said. 3, 4. And then you're going to do an increase, and you're going to do that increase by knitting in the front of the stitch and then knitting into the back of the stitch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a marker at this point. So we should have 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stitches. So now I'm going to do the next repeat of knit 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to knit 2 together. And then I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4. And somehow I ended up with some extra stitches here, but we're just going to do the increase. I'm going to do the increase through the 2 stitches just to get rid of that extra stitch. So what we do is we knit into the front of the stitch and then knit into the back of the stitch. So now we should have 12 stitches at this repeat. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So that's our first row. And then we're going to turn it around. It's a 2-row repeat for this one color. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. We'll knit 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to knit 2 together. And then we're going to knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Increasing in that 5th stitch. There's our marker, so yay, we know that we're correct. Slip the marker. Repeat one more time. 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to increase in that last stitch. So we knit into the front of the stitch and then knit into the back of that very same stitch. And there we go. And then we turn it around. And that's the other thing too, is we're just always knitting. There's no knitting, purling, really simple. So now at this point, we did our 2 rows of one color, and now we're going to work 2 rows of our second color. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Knit my 2 stitches together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase in our last stitch before the marker into the front of the stitch, into the back of the same stitch. There's our increase, and there's our marker, so we know that we're right on track. And now we're going to do the second repeat of knit 5, 3, 4, and 5. Knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's our last increase into the front and into the back. And you must have it memorized by now. And now I'm going to turn it around. Now, on a 2-color knit, you're going to really see the wrong side row on this because you can see the bumps on this side. And that's what happens with garter stitch when you change color, is you have a definite right side and you have a definite wrong side. The thing with the multicolored is that with the multicolor, it's a little more blended. You can see that there's a wrong side because you're not getting the really, really crisp rows of color like you are on the right side. But it's not too bad because if it does flip over, it doesn't look that awful on the wrong side. So now we'll do our final row of the single color, of the second color. And again, there's our 5 stitches that we're going to knit. 2, 3, 4, 5. Knit 2 together. And you'll start to see that it's also making this point. Where you knit 2 together, you get the point. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's our increase right before the marker. I love it when it's correct. Slip our marker, and now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. Sometimes I like to pull it down a little bit so that the stitch gets nice and straightened out. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and our final increase, front and back of the same stitch. And then we turn it around, and there you can see the color change. And you can also see our points coming, getting our zigzag, like that. Now, when I first started doing one of these scarves myself, I wasn't using markers. I usually tend not to unless I absolutely have to, just because I don't like to have that extra thing that I have to slip around. But as I was going, I started to realize that I was taking out as many rows as I was knitting. And this takes a size 3 needle, and as you can tell, it's a fingering weight yarn, so it's kind of light. And 96 stitches was starting to get to be a pain in the neck to be ripping out. So I decided that placing markers for every repeat, which is every 12 stitches, made just a whole lot more sense, and it was just so much easier. I could knit much more quickly because I wasn't doing any ripping out. And as you can see, it just really, really follows very nicely. So there's that. And as I said, you can go on the website, and the pattern is a free download. And it's very simple to follow. And basically, it's just a 4-row repeat. Same row pattern, just repeating. Oh, that's the other thing that I did want to kind of show you on the multicolored yarn. Well, actually, I can show it to you on the solid. Because what's going to happen is a lot of people ask, well, as you're knitting this, what a pain in the neck, because you have to keep cutting the yarn and keep changing every 2 rows. No, you don't. It's actually very, very simple. Because what you're going to do is, all right, so I did my 2 rows in the white. I did my 2 rows in the pink. I'm going to change back to my white. So all I have to do is take my pink yarn, and okay, we'll just put it over here. So what I do is I just drop the pink color, and I take my white, and I just carry that up. So when I go to knit the white, and what I'll do is I'll actually knit these rows so that you can see the carry up. 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. 4, and there's our increase again. Slip our marker. 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. Increase. And then turn. And the nice thing about this is you always know what side row you're on, because I have one yarn on this side, one yarn on this side. So I know they're both supposed to be on the same side. So you know you have one more row to go before you get to have to change again. With just using two colors, it's pretty obvious. But when you're using multicolors, you can kind of start losing track of where you might be. And you have to be very careful when you're using the multis to make sure that when you go to carry your color up, that you grab the right yarn. And I'll show you in just one second when we get to the end of this what I mean. 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. Okay, and there's our final increase. Okay, so now at this point, when I go to turn my work, there's my pink. I'm done with my white. So what I do is I drop the white and I just take the pink and I carry that up. Sometimes even just switching the sides of your yarn, and it just makes that very simple. That, see, there's my white, there's my pink, and when I carry the pink up to knit, it catches, oops, it catches the white. I don't know if you can, how well you can see that, but it just catches that white so that you don't have this long, you don't want to have long floats carrying along your side. With this scarf here, let me see, so this is the side that I'm carrying my yarn. You can see that it's nice and neat. Very, very little, just a nice neat edging by my carrying the yarn as I went up. And you just want to make sure, you just kind of give it a little twist and you just carry that second yarn up. And you just keep doing that, taking the other yarn and carrying it up the next time. So very simple. And when you're done, you just have a few ends that you have to weave in, and that's it. Another thing with this, just a little warning, especially since the yarn is kind of fine. This little marker that's right here is actually holding a stitch. Something happens when you go to knit 2 together, especially at home. I don't have the best lighting, and somehow or another I managed to miss. When I went to knit 2 together, I missed a stitch and it dropped. And so I just have it caught here so that when I'm done, I'll just take a little bit of yarn, I'll catch it, and I'll fix it. What I did, and I still managed to have the correct yarn count, I'm not sure, I'm not going to question it, it's working out, but I'll just catch that, fix it, nobody will be the wiser, I'll be the only one that's going to know about that. So, that's our zigzag for today. And can't wait to see what colorway you decide to do. And another little thing that you just might want to think about too when you're picking this out is the ones that I thought came out really, really stunning. They all look different no matter what you do. The more color contrast that you have, like say that you take something like a pastel color and put it with a darker color, you're going to get a lot of contrast between the two colors. Something dark with something bright in there, again, another nice contrast. Although there have been knitters that what they're doing is they like one colorway and they'll use that one colorway. But what you do is you start in different places, so it gives you just a nice gradation of colors. Even just changing the size needles that you're using. This was done on the size 3. I had a knitter that lent me this scarf, and she did this. She tends to be a little bit looser knitter anyway, but she did this one on a size 5. So you can see it's much more open, much lacier. Also, this yarn, it happens to be a superwash. It's very, very soft. But when you put this on, I mean, this looks scarf size. It's about 10 inches wide. When you make it like this, where it's a little more stretchy, this actually can serve as just a very, not super generous, but just as a nice little shawl. So you can wear it as a scarf, or if you're someplace and you're chilly, you can kind of drape it down a little bit and use it as a shawl as well. So it's a very great kind of all-purpose, really beautiful accessory. So anyway, that is it for me and the Zack, and I hope to see you really soon again at Focus on Fiber.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.